Good evening, welcome. Good morning, moin moin. Welcome from Hamburg. My name is Lars von Thienen and we are the foundation for the study of cycles. And I welcome you to a new episode of Cycles TV. And today is about talking about Edward Dewey and one of his main findings and one of his latest books. So this session is about 20 to 30 minutes, and I will have two takeaways for you or key points I want to go through in this session here. So what I will use today is I will go together with you through the book, The Mysterious Forces That Trigger Events. It's one of the last books which Edward Dewey did, 1970 something. It's hard to get this kind of book today, so if you have a chance to grab a copy of this book or go out to the library and check if you can find one, it's really worth it. There's lots of golden nuggets in it here. And we're working hard at the foundation to make this book available again. So we are working on republishing this kind of book. And why? Two things. First of all, it has great knowledge in this book, which is still valid for today. So, and this is why I will revisit two of his findings. And second, it's fun to read. The way it was written is really easy to get and understand. It reads a little bit like a thriller going to the last century about cycle research, the network, the contacts of Dewey. So it's really fun to read and think about the network during these times. So okay, let's get it started. So the first important topic is about the agenda of this book is quite large. So this is just the overview what's in this book. And together I just want to get two snippets about. The first thing is about the chapter 9, the cycles of Wall Street. So so what's the cycles of Wall Street and what's in this kind of content. And the second topic is about the ultimate clues, so the final findings, which he then summarized as findings of 30 years of cycle knowledge here. I'm just looking at the chat here on the left so that you don't get irritated. So I will try to keep an eye also on the session here. Richard is with us also in the chat, so feel free to continue the discussion here with my colleagues and Richard Smith here, so to have also this discussion going on here. So what about today? So chapter 9, cycles on Wall Street. One important topic I want to talk about, and it's all now original content from Dewey. What I show you here, you will see the page reference also in the bottom here of this page here, so that you can look this up. Everything here is original content from Edward Dewey. A false cycle. A false cycle. This topic is important because in today's world, it's sometimes much too easy to find a cycle. You click on a tool, on a button, on an indicator, on whatever application, and you see a cycle. Boom, there it is. But in today's world, it's even more important that you get an idea of differentiate between real valid cycles and false cycles. So Dewey dedicated some topics on what is a false cycle. And I will use a real example out of his original book here. So what you see here is, if you look at the chart here, this is the data set. This is the time axis here, and it looks like here it's kind of clean cycle. And if you measure it, the distance from top to top, it's a 5.7 years cycle. So what? So if you look where you are today in this timeline here, you would say, wow, great. Why not use this kind of cycle for forecasting? It's repeating a lot of times. It's clear, visible, has a nice amplitude, it's constant, it's repeating for over 30, 50 years. So what's with this cycle now using for forecasting? Using standard forecasting approach, you will now plot the kind of period or the length of this cycle into the future, which will give you the additional tops and lows where to expect moving forward in time, just highlighted here on the chart. So, but that's how it works out. So where's the top? Where's the next low? Where's the next top? The cycle disappeared. And it's not disappearing one time, it disappeared for 20 years. Gone. Cycle away. So what? We detected this cycle was really valid, showing here in the history. And I think this is what we all observe in our real analysis. So we think about, this is a great cycle. This is really, let's use it for forecasting. But then cycle is gone. Your forecasting is not worth anything. So, and this is a real example from his data set, page 116. So you can look it up. So what happened here? We clearly saw the cycle of 5.7 years. And that's now the risk of just visually thinking about using this kind of data set and measuring these cycles, because what's in it here, that the observed 5.7 year cycle was never a cycle with a life and beat of its own. So this is Dewey's finding, and this is valid for today. So this is really important. You get the background out of it. So why was it never a cycle? We clearly saw it on the chart. It was never a cycle with a life and beat of its own. Wow, now that's interesting. So okay, let's get into it, because any observed cycle, could be a combination of many closely related cycles. So it looks like this is one cycle, but any cycle you might find on a chart, or it's highlighted on a chart, or it's often used in tools where you align the low on the chart aligned with the next low on the chart, and then you draw these circles on your charting platform and you say, okay, here's a clear cycle from low to low. This is what we saw here. But be careful. Any of these observed cycles could be a combination of many closely related cycles. What does this mean? Let's dig into it now. I've prepared something here to get a better understanding of this. So let's bring this now into today's kind of analysis world here. I will just switch now the screen here. So what I've prepared here, and I will drop this link also in the YouTube section so you can play with this afterwards. So this is a playbook which kind of allows you play a little bit with cycles. So what you see here on the top, is exactly what I've shown you here in the analysis. So let's make it even bigger here for a second, that you can follow a little bit better here. So, okay, so let's have a closer look at this here now. So what you see here is on the upper one is the cycle we observed on the chart here, so on the timeline. And the 2 points here are just measured from top to top. And you see here, this is a measure. It's broken down into mathematical terms now here. So it's a 5.7 year cycle here. It's measuring between these 2 points here. But and below this observed cycle, which then has gone away, these are the closely related 3 cycles, which as combination make up the cycle you have observed. So the real cycles which are in these data sets are the 3 cycles here, which can be seen here below on the screen. So the first cycle, which is in this data set, has a length of 4.89 years. The second cycle has a length of 5.5 years. And the third cycle has a length of 6.07 cycles. So there is no cycle of 5.7 years. There is no cycle. So, and now what's important, it's always the superposition of different cycles. There's always a combination of many cycles which is active in any market or whatever market you are analyzing. So you need to analyze, doesn't matter which data set you're working on, what different cycles are active there. And even if from a visual perspective, it might look so easy, it's important that you get the background. So the 5.7 cycle is just the combination of these 3 cycles. The combination of the 4.8, the 5.5, and the 6.1. I mean, the playbook now allows a little bit to play with it. So we can disable cycles here, so, and make them the composite. So I've now disabled the first 2 cycles, and now you see it's just made of these 2 cycles here. So the black line is just now 1 cycle here. And if you activate the 4.8 cycle, you see that the composite of this cycle changes. And if you activate also the 3rd cycle, you see now that, this is a 5.7 year cycle, but the combination, and this is a superposition of cycles in this time period here, phases out. So this 5.7 cycle, which is no real cycle, is not there. And this is what you often see in cycles. So that, the cycle has gone, the cycle has disappeared. No, the cycle has not disappeared. You just have not found the real cycles, which are based on the observed cycle you are using. So, and that's also the discussion about cycle inversions and the cycle disappeared and all this kind of stuff. And Dewey pointed out that be careful, cycles can fade away from the observational perspective, but you need to know what are the cycles behind this kind of superposition. And I mean, in the years this was written 1970 something, there was no digital signal processing. So I mean, in today's world, we really can be happy. We have digital signal processing tools which help us just with a click, to understand what are the cycles here. So today it's really easy for every one of us, use whatever your tool you like, to detect what are the cycles in the tier. So we just need to pull up a digital signal processing engine, which will show us then, there's a cycle of 5.8, 4.8, 5.5, 6.01. Do you want a combination of that? I mean, you need then other tools to validate if these 3 cycles should be used. So we provide Bartle score, and there's then other tools which allow you that. But if you have these tools, and then you can plot wherever you are in time, then you can use this superposition for forecasting. So takeaway number 1 for this session, and therefore I wanted to highlight this topic here. Whenever you see or observe a cycle or think about, okay, I have now found a cycle, check for yourself, have you validated if this might be a false cycle? What tools do you use to validate if you have a false cycle, if you're dealing with a false cycle? Because we are all, and this includes me also, are falling into love with a kind of observed cycle and then doing some projections. Before you do that, check yourself, use additional tools. The observed cycle could be a combination of many closely related cycles. So please, and therefore, the finding Dewey outlined here is so true for today's cycle analysis, so that please, whatever tool you use, once you've found a cycle, get back, check for yourself, could this cycle be a combination of many other cycles? So this is a false cycle you are using, because it's a high risk if you use false cycles for forecasting, because any forecast, any projection will fail if you use a false cycle. So this was takeaway 1. And the question you should ask yourself now afterwards is, what are you using to check if you are working on false cycles? So I think one thing is use digital signal processing to break down any data set, any composite cycle into the clearly cycles which are in this data set, and then you can check for yourself what the composite is. There might be other tools, but this finding from Dewey is so valid until today. But okay, I think I've repeated this now several times. Okay, I will give you the link for this tool here, because I think it's also quite good to understand. I just need to check now what's with my camera going on. Oh yeah, here I'm back again. So what's important here in this kind of setup here is that you have answers on this question here. So okay, let's now move on. I'm quite lost in my setup here, but give me a second. Yeah, that's where we are. Sorry. Takeaway number one. Be sure you're on that. So this is his what he outlined in his book. So I just want to bring this into the kind of digital tools, so you can play with the playbook on your own and learn about it. Because make yourself comfortable that you understand this. Okay, so topic number 2. The most significant evidence, as Dewey phrased this finding now, and it's found page 190. I think now it's one of the last chapters he was using, and therefore I think this is so important also to be aware of that. So the most significant evidence after over 30 years of work on cycles Dewey did. And read this carefully now together with me. Whenever we discover cycles that have the same length in completely unrelated phenomena, we are put on alert. So this is one part of the story. If you find cycles with the same length in different data sets, you should be on alert. Yeah, that's one finding. And then the second part of the story, the significant that the cycle is really present in different data gets higher and higher if you find the same cycle in also other phenomena. So not only in the same data sets, so you use other data sets. And then the ultimate clue that he was then thinking about is, we discover that all cycles of the same length tend to turn at the same time. They act in synchrony. Now think about, it's difficult to find cycles with identical length anyhow. So, I mean, if you find the same cycle with the same length in different data sets, wow, that's even not so simple and so easy. But think about how much more difficult it is to find cycles with identical length that also turn at the same time. So these are two topics. Not only you found the same length of these cycles in different data sets, they are now also turning at the same point in time. So this is really very, very hard to identify. So, and this is what he called cycles act in synchrony. So the significance that you have a cycle is at least high if the length is valid in different data set. Point 1. Point 2, if these are now from the phase perspective aligned and they turn at the same time, wow, that's kind of cycle parade, cycle synchrony. So these are the times when you observe this kind of behavior, you're not only on alert, you know now that cycle turn is around the corner. And I mean, these findings work up to today. This was written 50 years ago. 50 years ago. It's valid in your today cycle analysis. And it's so important because that's the second point. The first point was the false topic, the false cycle topic. So if you are able to get yourself on something to discover this false cycle, you really have an advantage. The second topic is now, if you look out for synchrony, and you find synchrony or you see synchrony, then that's it. So what's behind that? So and now let's get back into today's world, because the synchrony was visible before summer this year, and I will now use some news and infos we made public and from the foundation. So that's really no hard science here. So because what you see here, and let's make this bigger here. What you see is a kind of summary of different data sets here, which have been analyzed. This was mid-end of October. This has also been posted on our blog, so you can review it. But you can see this with any tool. So it's no really hidden science here. That's just pure digital signal processing, nothing special. You could have used whatever tool you like. But just look at the combination here, the length. Do you see the reading here? the cycles which have been identified in these markets here, and it goes from international indices to treasury bonds to sentiment data sets here on the lower end here, they have all the same length. They are about 170 days. We are on alert. Finding number one from Dewey. And to be honest, you don't see this often in the markets. In most cases, yeah, you see different lengths. So that's the kind of major cycle which is present here. So wow, we have the same length in different cycles. And if you would have worked on cycle analysis, you would anyhow know that the cycle with the length of 170 was present even from the start of this year. But now, point 2, look at the current phase where these markets are. Yeah, this is just the writing of the visual representation of where we are in this cycle. So this cycle is topping, downtrend starting means we are past the top departure, top arrival. So these cycles are all topping. The Nikkei has already passed. So, and then you see the bonds uptrend starting, and you see the sentiments bottom departure. So all cycles with the same length now turn at the same point in time. Sure, lots of these markets are correlated here. You're right. But if you go to bonds and the sentiment, this is the first to make it easy. What should you do? Don't look just on one index. Yeah. So this is all across the world. These are bonds and a sentiment here. I agree they are related, but anyhow, this is also not what you see in standard. So you're not only on alert if all these cycles turn at the same point in time, and this was end of August. I mean, if you're a cycle analyst, you know what will happen. You see the date here. Yeah, exactly. It's the 20th of August. Exactly. Yeah, 20th of August. This was done. And we posted this on our blog. So this is nothing which worked good after the fact. This was live on our blog. And this was also live, 25th August. We did then a combination. So you are on alert and they turn on the same time. This is what Dewey told us 50 years ago. Look out, make your homework, go deeper in the analysis. So this is what we did here. This is then a composite on the S&P 500 here in this case. And then this is what I said. Now, get back 20 minutes, check back if you have a fall cycle. So what we do here now, is the cycle with a length of 170 maybe just a fall cycle? Based on many closely related cycles. You have learned this in the beginning of the session. So therefore, you need to check, there might be other cycles active in this market here. So therefore, pull up whatever tool you like to use. There are different tools which work quite similar. So this is no rocket science to detect the cycles which are active here. There are lots of tools out there to do that. This is more or less really just in today's world, just a mouse click. So in this case here, this tool showed us the different cycles, which you just activate. And there are now two outcomes if you activate more cycles. You have learned from the first, maybe they can flatten out so that these cycles at some point in time flatten out, and you should not use this for forecasting. But what you see here is, if you add all these cycles up, they form a very sharp turning point. So they do not flatten out. We don't have a fall cycle. Anyhow, even the other cycles support these cycles we have seen on the other charts. So this is one way of using what I've tried to explain in the first session. So we validate, is this a fall cycle? No, it's not a fall cycle. It's even the other way around. The other cycles support the key cycle. And I mean, I don't need to tell you what the forecast was here. If you have a closer look at this chart here, it was end of August. We expect a market turn here. And this was 25th August. We have done live sessions. We have reached out to media, all in our foundation board here. My colleagues did it, Andy did it, Bill did it, Richard did it. We made the blog post here. So we really tried to inform you on this situation here while we are doing no advisory and no forecasting here. We teach how to use cycle analysis, but this was really a good post here. So I mean, you all know the outcome, yeah? But the interesting, I think markets topped at 2nd of September. I mean, review this on your own. But often I get the question then, how do I use this knowledge for trading in my real environment? So let's add something on top of this. I mean, these are the two topics from Dewey I want to point out. And the last topic now to add on this, how do I use this in my practical set? So that another finding Dewey told 50 years ago, business cycles are generated by consumers. People's feelings are probably the most important factor. But now read the second sentence carefully. I would keep as far away as possible from bankers, executives, and intellectuals. So whatever you will read in the news media, in these bank analysts, be careful with that, because that's not the people's feeling, what you will hear. So if you, and this is what cycles are about, they have a predictive kind of nature, because we have been mid of August, so cycles have a predictive, every technical indicator you might use is just lagging. Cycles have a predictive nature. So by mid of August, you will find all these kind of things here before the market does something. That's the key topic of cycles. But what you should not do, don't go out and listen to the media, listen to the so-called analysts sitting in banks here. So keep away as far as possible from bankers. This is what Dewey told us 50 years ago. I mean, we had no internet. Yeah? We had no Twitter. He had no Twitter at that point in time, but it's so true for today. So read what's around, page 124. Okay, but what does this mean? This is what the bankers said at this point in time. They lifted their even higher price targets. So they wanted to push you in the market. Buy. The markets will go higher. We increase our price targets here. Goldman Sachs and you, I mean, you know this crazy situation end of August. They all said, yeah, prices will go higher. We can't explain you, but whatever. So they must increase. And you can just observe it with a smile if you have this kind of cycle knowledge. But okay, so 50 years back, now back to today, and some final charts here now to end this topic here. There's other cycle research out there in today's world. So I will just highlight one topic here from Fidelity Investment. So this is a kind of also analysis company in this economic environment. And they have, what they did here in this chart I share with you is they have analyzed different sectors through a business cycle. I think they used a period of over 50 years, so the last 50 years, yeah? So this is an up-to-date study here. You can review it using this link here. I will also put it in the video chat here. And what they found in their analysis, that at different cycle phases, yeah, so and I will look now at this peaking phase here. It's labeled a little bit different, so they use a different wording here. So we would expect a kind of peak end of August, right? So this is what I showed in the analysis. So what they have discovered that during business cycle peaks, the sectors behave different. Yeah. So and this is now what you can also do is to cross-validate from other kind of research and analysis. Okay, how can I use this kind of use here? So, and there's a kind of finding during peaks, information technology will still run ahead. And on the other side, for example, utilities, materials will be the first one within peaks which will turn. So, and this is what happened end of August, right? They all have been looked at the information technology, the Nasdaq, the tech, they still run. Yes, this happens at market peaks. I mean, there's no secret science. This has been published. This is a valid institute here. This is up-to-the-date analysis. You should know this if you deal with cycles. So, going back to Dewey's topic here, keep as far away as possible from bankers, executive, and intellectuals, because they told you something different at this point in time. So watching the markets end of August, where information technology still moves up and utilities, at least what this researcher, should go down, you could be relaxed. And you know what happened? This is a chart, and I've just highlighted here between the blue topics here the mid-August period. In the middle, you see the S&P 500. So this is the black line here on this chart. On the upper, the green line is the S&P 500 sector, information technology sector, and down below the purple line is the S&P 500 utilities sector. And you see what the markets did, and you can't observe it in the S&P 500. You see the techs are booming up, and if you have just followed the media news noise, which you should not do if we follow Dewey's work, you see that the utilities turned and started already to move down constantly, not just one day, not just 2 days, since beginning of August. So you have another confirmation of cycle analysis. The Synchrony of Cycles told us end of August, we are on elite. Same length, turning at the same time. So then you can cross-check. Utilities should turn first as sector. Yes, they did. Okay, then you do your cycle analysis with whatever tool, and our forecast shown here told us, oh, we would expect end of August, 1st of September, a sharp turn to happen. I mean, this was perfect. This was perfect. And it was not perfect because of one tool or whatever. It was perfect because we just followed Dewey's work. Yeah, we just followed on Dewey's finding. We just used cycle analysis talking about here. So, and said here, I just want to bring this into today's world because we published this finding already on our blog here on the foundation. So this is really nothing which we will now pull up because it would have worked good. This worked, and you can review the blog, you can review our interviews, which my colleagues and I did during the last weeks here. So let's more or less conclude or just finish this session here. There's so much to talk about, yeah, but at least we're running out of time. So I think we have now the 30 minutes and we are more or less complete here. Last topic, you should also talk. Yet when this is finally completed and the cycles that stand up are combined and projected into the future, this is what I showed you with projecting this top. We still have little assurance that our forecast of future price behavior in the stock market will come true for very long. Little assurance that this will be valid for very long. Because this could be now the possible risk you go. Every forecast you do is a static forecast at this point of time you're doing the forecast. And the more and more you go into the future and use the static forecast, the forecast will also fade away. So every cycle forecast you do, the more you move into the future, the lower is your chance that this forecast will stay true. And this is what Dewey also said. So therefore, you need to update your cycle analysis by new data you have. So never do a static forecast and say, okay, this is now how this year will look like. This is how the next cycle year, where the turns are for the next year. You need to update your analysis. You need to check back if the cycles might have changed their length or their phase. So this will give you then the next update. And thanks to digital signal processing, we can make this happen just with a mouse click. But I mean, remember at this point in time, yeah, he wrote this, what amount of work this have been to check which cycles have been active. 1970, no digital signal processing, no computers, just clicking a button. Today we have these tools. Yeah, use it. But the endless parade, it's an endless work. Cycle analysis and cycle research is work you need to do and update every day again. Even if this forecast worked one time, you need to update it. Okay, so one thing to tell you before we end is we have really something great coming around the corner. So what happens in our foundation? You know something? There was a Cycles magazine. Which was key of the foundation. And the foundation published this magazine for a decade, but unfortunately it has not been published for the last 20 years. But thanks to our colleagues here in the board, the magazine will come back. Yeah! Beginning of November, the new Cycles magazine will show up. You see now here just a preview of the plan chart. The articles are already there. The content is there. So Andy Pancoli, Bill Sarubi really did a great job. They pulled all this together. Mark helped them. So thanks to our colleagues here in the board. This was a team activity now to bring back the Cycles magazine. Yeah! So you can look out for beginning of November, where this will then show up, and we then are planning to publish this every coming quarter. So thanks for staying with me for these 30 minutes. And please, just if you want to take away 2 topics out of this presentation, take a pencil now, and please take a piece of paper. Yeah. So, question number 1, write down, and you should answer it. What am I doing to ensure that I don't use false cycles? Question mark. Answer this question for yourself and write your answer down. You need to have an answer. It's not important to share it. You need to have an answer. If you don't have an answer, there's missing something in your toolbox. Question 2. Take a piece of paper and a pencil now, please. Question number 2. What am I doing to look for cycle synchrony? Which different data sets I use to check if they are the same cycle length with turning cycles at the same point of time? How am I doing this in my environment? Question mark. Please find your answer on that. If you find answers to these 2 questions, I think you will have a great increase in your toolbox and knowledge using cycle analysis. So for today, thanks for staying with me. I hope this was something important, and for sure, please feel free to drop your comments here down below in the video section. We will revisit this so we can discuss and communicate. Also, drop us a note if you like this format of Cycles TV. So then we will work on bringing this more frequently out here. So you see, we are really now pulling together our forces to bring the foundation back again, to bring cycle analysis to your desk. Thanks. Have a great time. And I would say see you in the next session.